We at Applied Athletics Incorporated would first like to thank Scott Blackman and the rest of the USOC for allowing us the opportunity to help reimagine the way that U.S. volleyball operations are governed. While there is a history of success in this sport for both men and women, we've determined that there are lost opportunities when it comes to engaging people from an early age and keeping them involved for life. The following presentation will build upon our proposed regionalization of American sport and draw upon the principles of long-term athlete development used in Canada, not only to garner more participation, but also to increase the frequency of success on the international level. We have also chosen to focus our efforts on men's volleyball in this process because, as you will see, the participation numbers are shockingly low. The precedent for this level of focus change on only one side of the governing body has been set recently by U.S. Soccer with their additions of Jurgen Klinsmann and his vision for the United States men's national soccer team. Before we could overhaul the current governing body, we first needed to identify some of the strengths and weaknesses of the current system. We performed a basic SWOT analysis and determined that the following to be true about the United States volleyball. Some strengths we found included a lifetime sport mentality held by the national governing body towards volleyball, as well as a fun-for-all levels mentality. Also, USA Volleyball already has a regional system in place, which we'll use to our advantage as we put our regional system in place. Lastly, there are already high-performance measures in place that help athletes achieve higher levels of success throughout their development model. While the high-performance measures can be viewed as a strength in some regards, we have determined that the way that they are operated in the current system is a weakness because it places too much emphasis on the tryout mentality and not enough emphasis on development. It could potentially disrupt participants from athletes who try out and are determined to not be not good enough or non-elite. Another weakness we found lies in the lower developmental levels where there are less experienced coaches and fewer resources available to these teams. The existing opportunities for growth are found in the current infrastructure that is in place in all communities for women's volleyball. Most cities and counties already have courts, nets, and experienced officials available. The main threat we found in the growth potential is the lack of opportunities for elite athletes to make a living playing this sport in America. As this graph illustrates, over the last 5 school years, just over 250,000 total young men have had the opportunity to compete in volleyball at the high school level, compared with close to 2 million young ladies. This discrepancy, along with numbers that show that men's volleyball is half the participation of lacrosse, a third of the participation of golf and tennis, and a fifth of the participation of wrestling, makes it clear that a change is needed. As you're familiar with at this point, our regionalization of American sport has divided the country into 8 regions, 2 per time zone, with a hub city in each region. These hubs will house regional offices for the national governing bodies and will help stimulate and monitor growth and participation in their respective regions. In addition to the hub city, there will be satellite offices in each city with more than 500,000 residents. All of these outlets will be vital to our growth plan and will help provide never-before-seen opportunities in volleyball for many areas of the country. The first and most crucial step in our goal of reinvigorating men's volleyball will be the recruitment of coaches and athletes. To do so, we first need to recognize that the game itself needs to be modified to suit the needs of those participating. The sport itself needs to provide more inclusive opportunities regardless of economic status, culture, and geography. In addition to being more inclusive, making sure that all beginning athletes have a positive first contact with the sport is key. At this point, we need to ensure that volleyball is a welcoming place for even those without a background in the sport, and design remedial programs for newcomers to catch up with their peers. These are keys in attempting to ensnare these athletes for life. So altering the games for first-timers to make it more enjoyable is imperative. Also, in keeping with the long-term athlete development model, early competition needs to be centered around physical literacy and skill acquisition and not success on the court. After a positive first contact with the sport is initiated, implementation of the long-term athlete development model is key. Working through the developmental stages, starting with physical literacy, moving into the active start, the fundamentals, the learn to train to train, train to compete, and train to win stages. Using this model and monitoring them at the hubs in the regions will allow us to monitor the development of our athletes from the start. From a coaching standpoint, coaches will be versed not only in the fundamentals of the game, but they will also be versed in the long-term athlete development flowcharts so that they may monitor their athletes for opportunities for advanced accelerated adaptation of skill. After recruiting the players and getting them involved in the sport, giving them a reason to stay involved is paramount. We have chosen to focus on the fit-for-life aspect of the long-term athlete development model, which aims to encourage participation over the entire lifespan, providing opportunities for all ages and skill levels. The regional hubs and satellite offices will also provide invaluable resources for those athletes looking to remain active in volleyball, whether it be from a competition standpoint or a coaching standpoint across their lifespan. Another benefit to the regional plan is that the database associated with the region will allow athletes who move a chance to find suitable competition in their new town or region. To help retain coaches, opportunities will be provided which will allow them the chance to remain with their current team throughout the entire development process, or will provide them with opportunities to coach more advanced players within their own region. Also imperative in the athlete retention process, integrating development plans between school and regional teams will help the athlete in question remain on their developmental path regardless which jersey they are wearing. Transitioning athletes is the final step in the implementation process. Transitioning can occur as the athlete moves along their developmental path, as they transition into another sport, or as they transition out of a competitive sport and into a recreational sport or coaching. In doing so, we will rely on the long-term athlete development principles of allowing opportunities for advancement based on development. We will also encourage co-opetition between adjacent sports in order to form more well-rounded athletes and athletic experiences. In this case, we have found basketball to be our main ally in providing this co-opetition, since both sports encourage quick, fast movement, jumping, hand-eye coordination, and ball skills. We also want to encourage the transition of our volleyball participants to remain involved in the sport through coaching, officiating, volunteering, or even working at the regional hub level. This allows for a knowledge transfer from the many lessons learned from overcoming the physical and emotional challenges and all those things experienced through volleyball. We would also like to provide more opportunities to move from highly competitive volleyball to lifelong competitive volleyball through age group competitions and masters games, as well as programs for those simply wanting to remain fit. With these implementations in mind, we have set 4-year goals for men's volleyball as well as U.S. volleyball on the whole. We have set both developmental and systematic goals for years 1 and 2, finishing with the Rio Olympics in 2016, after which we have only set developmental goals for the following 2 years. The developmental goal for year 1 is to establish an integrated coaching training system and start building a database of well-educated coaches for all levels and settings, including beginner. A way to generate interest could be the cross-education of current basketball coaches. These coaches would not only be versed in long-term athlete development principles, but would also be versed in the fundamentals of the game. The certification would 2-year license issued through the region of their choosing. As far as a systematic goal for year 1, it's imperative that we qualify for all 4 volleyball events at the 2016 Rio Olympics, both men's and women's beach and indoor volleyball. The developmental goal for year 2 is to start building infrastructure for leagues in the regions and set up opportunities for first contact, including enjoyment and basic skill acquisition using kid-friendly models of play that will get more children involved before the Olympics start that summer. The systematic goal is to win gold in all 4 volleyball events at the 2016 Rio Olympics. Doing so will help set up years 3 and 4 for success. While we understand basing popularity and participation on success is risky, we have seen such models work with the revitalization of soccer in wake of U.S. women's and men's successes in recent World Cups. The goal for year 3 following the Olympics is to locate opportunities to grow participation numbers at the high school level. We would like to increase participation at the high school level by 15% using many of the same models used by the lacrosse board. What they did was use multiple school formats and IE teams to generate local pride, both at the high school and middle school level. This way, one school didn't have to put out the resources and many schools could come together, generating interest in the sport. Also in year 3, we would like to integrate club teams and coaches with the school teams and coaches to generate a more complete developmental plan for the growing elite athlete base. In year 4, we would like to host our first elite competition between the 8 regions and look for a television sponsorship, preferably with ESPNU. At this time, we would also look to increase male participation between the ages of 14 and 18 by 10% more, essentially growing the population of men's volleyball players at the high school level to 75,000 from the 50,000 that it currently is. Lastly, in year 4, we would like to provide interested universities with the tools to help create competitive club teams, also utilizing the regional system and the developmental tools that they host. Our goals past the initial 4-year term are to increase the number of NCAA institutions offering men's scholarships from 37 to 100, as well as to have all American players, both male and female, currently competing abroad, play stateside, earning comparable wages while playing in an American indoor volleyball league. We appreciate your time and faith in us and look forward to the next 4 years of growth. We have set lofty goals and plan on reaching them through proper execution of the plan we have laid out. Thank you again for your time, faith, and energy concerning this matter, and go USA Volleyball.